Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brooke. Thanks for joining today. Today we are going to be doing a different video that I haven't done in a while. It's an update video. So if you haven't, make sure to subscribe so you can be up to date on all my updates. If you are a recurring viewer, thanks so much for coming back and watching another video. Today we're doing an update video. I haven't done an update video because I haven't really had anything to update on other than the fact that I just see my Jose Bono. Wow. Okay, hold on. I purchased this Jose Bono a couple weeks ago. And look at this leaf. I saw that the leaf was coming out, but this is a lot larger. I thought it was going to be this size. This is a lot bigger, and it's got a very white variegation. So anyways, update on that guy. He's doing great. This video is an update on my Monstera Esqueleto. So I purchased a Monstera Esqueleto in February of this year, and I'll post a video of what it looked like. But shortly after, it got thrips, and actually not a lot of my plants in my collection, but a few plants in my collection got thrips. And so this was just the worst of it. And I assume it came from this plant. I don't know. But I have not dealt with thrips much. I have not dealt with, honestly, a lot of pests, Like I have had mealybugs on a rehab plant that I took from a friend and tried to get rid of. And so I dealt with scale on that as well. And I have had spider mites on my plants, and then thrips I've had on my Monstera specifically. So that's kind of why I am not super big fan of Monstera. I know that they are like a beloved plant. They are the #1 house plant that you can purchase today. I would say they're the most popular houseplant you can purchase. And while they are beautiful and notoriously easy to care for, I just haven't had the same experience as everyone else on here, because they have been the hardest plant for me to take care of, to be perfectly honest with you. So I have a large Monstera Thai constellation that has been incredibly difficult for me to care for. Just cannot figure out what it is. I ended up propagating that guy, chopping it up, propagating it, and it's done nothing. So I had a viewer on here comment, and they're probably correct. I probably cut too close to the node, and so I don't know that there's going to be any more growth from it. The internodes on this guy are a lot closer than your Monstera deliciosa or Esqueleto or Stanleyana or anything like that. And so yeah, update video on that at a later time when I figure out when I have time for that. But my Monstera Esqueleto, so got thrips. I treated it. I ended up having to cut a lot of it off. I did get rid of the thrips. I used Jack's Dead Bug Brew solely, and it got rid of them. But it just looked haggard. It was awful. They really did a number on the leaves. And so I ended up chopping it all the way back. So I did a video here where I chopped it back. I cut the leaves off, and then I propagated it by the wet stick propagation method. And so that's what we're going to be checking out today. I have 3 containers here of my propagations, my wet sticks. And so I want to see what they're doing, because it's been a couple weeks now. It's honestly been months now, probably. And my Monstera Esqueleto, it's in this office. It's in the corner. I will share. It has an update. It's doing so much better. And so yeah, we're just going to see where it is. Bit of the care behind this guy. So with my Monstera, yes, people say that they like to dry out, and I believe that they do. However, I have dealt with like the Thai constellation, the Esqueleto, my Monstera Stanleyana albo. Those are the only Monsteras that I have in my collection, and they do not like to dry out. So with my Esqueleto, I do not let it dry out all of the way. I don't let this guy dry out all the way, and I don't let my Stanleyana dry out all the way. So I water it probably when the bottom inch of soil is still wet. Now these guys have really large foliage, so this specifically is my largest plant that I have. My Esqueleto is probably my second largest, the stragglers that are hanging on. But I do fertilize them with Dyna-Gro, because they do require a lot of nutrients to grow, because they are such large foliage. And so I would make sure you are watering your plants, make sure that you are fertilizing them with each watering Again, I use Dynagrow Superfoods, I think it's what it's called. I can't remember, Supergrow, something like that. I have used fish emulsion in the past or worm castings in my soil, so you can do that as well. It's a little bit more natural. But for these guys, yeah, I do fertilize them every watering. Now, light. So the Thai constellation, I have figured out that it likes high light. So when people say that they are low light tolerant, or they say low light plants, they're low light tolerant. So they can grow in a lower light situation. They're going to thrive in a high light situation. So this one sits under a CNC 35 watt grow light. My Esqueleto currently sits under nothing because I have banished it. Pretty much is what happened. Once it got thrips, I kind of stuck it in a corner in this office, actually right over here, and it got north-facing light. And so it's still getting north-facing light. I've just moved it to the opposite corner. Now, my Monstera deliciosa has always sat in a southwest-facing window and done very well. I moved here, and it's a little bit of a lower light situation in the southwest-facing window, and so I've recently chopped that all up and propagated it as well because it was just one long vine in the pot. That's just how I purchased it. I got it on clearance at Lowe's for $5, and it's grown really large. I just wanted a more full plant. And so I just recently chopped it back, but it is sitting now directly in a southwest facing window, getting a ton of light and light from grow lights that are in my bedroom as well. So like secondary light, I would say. But they do require light. My Stanleyana loves light. My Albo Stanleyana, it loves light. It gets more variegated the more light I give it. And yeah, I would just say give them the best light that you can. If you want to grow these plants well, I would give them light. Don't bother with the low light situations. Just go straight for the light because they are going to grow the best in that. With all Monstera, they can be propagated and propagated pretty easily, unless it's this one. But you do have to watch out, again, like I said, on my Thai constellation, the inner nodes, which are the space between, wait, I'll show you a plant that if I can. This is a philodendron, Hartley philodendron, but it's the same concept as a Monstera. So they have nodes that are usually right above the leaf that is already out. I don't know how to explain that. Usually right above the aerial roots is what I say. So the aerial roots are right here and you can see them. And if you cut this guy right here like this, you can propagate it and this node will activate and a new leaf will come out of that node. Same thing with the Monsteras. You can do that, but the Thai constellation, their inner nodes, so this space where there is nothing between these aerial roots and nodes, are much closer together. And so when I cut that, I probably cut that node and deactivated it, pretty much killed it off. And so I don't know that to be exact, but it's a great possibility. So if you do have a Monstera type constellation or Monstera in general, do watch, and just any plant, I guess, watch where you're cutting and making sure that there is enough space to cut between the nodes. And so the Monstera Esqueleto kind of was the same way. The inner nodes were very short and it was a little difficult to see where I should cut. So I ended up cutting all the way back to the original spot in one of the plants, because there are two plants, I believe, in this one pot. I cut one all the way back. I removed its leaves and I took all of those sticks, because if they have nodes or aerial roots but no leaf, you can still propagate them. And so what I did was I removed the leaf that was the last leaf that was actually on that plant, and I took it off and I just decided to chop it all up everywhere I could and put the sticks that still had aerial roots in these perlite bins. I almost said biscuits bins, and see what happens. And so I waited for the other plant to grow. I did chop the other half of the plant back a little bit, and I think I propagated a few nodes off of that. But what was also happening with this Esqueleto is it was pushing off runners, which my Monstera Stanleyana does as well as my Esqueleto. They love to climb. Monsteras use their aerial roots in the wild to climb trees, to find water, to attach themselves, to get up towards the light. And so that's what this is doing as well. It's pushing off a ton of runners. It was not pushing out any new leaves, and that was due to the lack of light that I was giving it. And so I decided to chop all those runners back and again propagate them. So this is what I have here. If you want to check out that whole video where I went through and cut it all up, you can. I'll link it below. But I wanted to share an update on these because I have not looked at these since I put them in here under my Barina grow lights. So I did cover them with a plastic baggie. I used perlite for all of them, and we'll see what happens. But here's a video of my Monstera Esqueleto, the mother plant. So you can see here, it actually has 2 new growth points, which is great. One growth point is actually pushing out a new leaf, and the other one finally pushed out a new leaf, but now is back to the runner, pushing out runners. And so I don't know what's going to happen. It could push out another leaf, but I do need to give it light of some sort. And so I will do that eventually. But it does look a lot better now that those leaves of the old plant that were thrips damaged have gone, and I'm hoping that it just has a chance to really bounce back. So the one new leaf looks really good, and I'm really happy with it. So we'll see if it continues on that way. The new leaf coming in on the second shoot looks good as well. It is a little smaller because it's a brand new plant basically. So it had kind of to, nothing to go off of. Usually if there is a plant with larger leaves, it will push off a larger leaf in its new form, so long as there is the same consistent light source. So if you notice that your plant is going from really big leaves to really small leaves, check your light and make sure you're fertilizing. But anyways, so that's that guy. He looks really good. He's bounced back well. And so it did, again, take a couple months for him to get there. But let's look and see at these propagations. So there are wet sticks in all of these. I'll do this first because I actually can see this. So this, I just stuck them in a red Solo cup, put a baggie on it. I did water them once. So when I originally did this propagation, I made sure that they were well watered. I used filtered water. I did not use your tap water. Don't use your tap water. So that's my number one tip for propagations in general. But let's see what we've got. These are actually the 2 largest ones. So they were towards the bottom. So I can see this guy. Okay, sorry. So, oh man, it has a very small root right here. You can see that. Yep, you can see that right here. And it has a new growth point right here. So that's really good to note. It does not have any other roots, which is hilarious that there is one random root growing right there. Anyways, when I cut this, I did not have any aerial roots on it or whatsoever. And so this is hilarious that it's holding on. Oops, holding on there. Let's check out the second one here. So this is a really thick one. Like barely. Try not to, yeah, that's what I was trying not to do. Ugh, it's a little mushy. Ugh. Okay. So it has some aerial roots right here, which you're not going to be able to see these brown spots growing. And then it has a new growth point right here. So right there, right where my finger is. So those 2 are good. And then I'm just going to leave those in the cup because there's nothing to pot up or do with that one. And then I'm going to just put this back in here since I have that cup, them already in that cup. Wow. Okay. We'll just shuffle those down there, and I put them in the clear cup so I'll be able to see them now, see if any roots form. But they do have 2 new growth points on them, so I'll keep them in there and let's see what what happens, what they do, if they grow roots or not. I have noticed that I've done this on my Monstera Stanleyana. I've propagated the runners, and I've noticed that the leaves pop out first before any root system forms, which I thought was really interesting. You would think that it would need to root prior to having foliage grow, but apparently not. So that one's done. Leave him in there, and I will put him back under my grow light. Now let's see this guy, because this is what I can see it in here. It's sticking up right there. And so I wanted to know if it's got any roots. Let's see here. Okay, so initially we have this really small runner, something sticking out this side right here. I don't know, like it's really faint. I'm not sure if that's a new growth point or what, but let's check here. Ooh, I see some mushy stuff. Ugh. Okay, okay. So this is the one that was sticking up top. So it's got a mushy part, but it does have roots. So you can see those roots right here and here. And then this is the new growth point that it has. So I actually should put this in the cup because this was hitting the top of the thing that I had it in, and I don't want it to get stuck. So it does have a new growth point, so that's exciting. I will again put it in there. This is all mush, and I don't know if I want to cut that or what I want to do, but it's disgusting. So let's move on. Oh, okay. Here is this guy. So no, ugh, it's really gross. So new growth point, no root system really. There is an extremely tiny root that you're not even going to be able to see right there. So that's 2. So we're 4. We're 5. We're 4 or 5. Golly, we are 4 or 5 have a growth point, and this has nothing. Well, it's got something. Again, it's like the first one where it has a really faint white point coming out of it. So we'll keep that there. Okay. This is what? The 6, 4, 5, yeah. This is the 7th cutting. And it has a new growth point, gosh, right there, making a huge mess. Yay. 8th cutting, and it has a very tiny new growth point right here. Don't know if you can see that at all, but it has one. What else do we have in here? Do we have more? I think that was it. So, yeah, that was it. Okay, pretty good for that one. So all of them have a new growth point. Obviously, some more than others, but that's exciting to see. I will go ahead and put the smaller ones back in here, and actually I'll stick them up like that. Hopefully it won't break that off. Stick them back in here, and then the bigger one that has the growth point, I'm going to stick it in the cup with the first ones I showed. And when you do this, I just slightly bury them in the perlite like that, and then cover them, spray them with water, and then cover them and call it a day. Wait, this might not be an Esqueleto because it has a white thing running through it. This might be a Stanleyana. Just keep him in there. Last one, last pouch. I can again see 2 or 3 growth points on this guy. So let's see what we've got. And these all sit under T5 Marina grow lights in my bedroom. And these are Stanleyanas. So these are Stanleyanas. They have very slight little growth points. This one, that's interesting. Okay. Okay, so this is an Esqueleto. And it's got the first root, like actual root that we've seen, and it has a large growth point, so that's good. This has a growth point on it. This is another Esqueleto, has a little growth point, no roots. This looks like it has 2 growth points, one here and one here, which is fascinating. Yeah, it's got 2 growth points, so that's interesting, but no roots. This one has, again, no roots, but a growth point right there, as you can see right there. Last one, that's the last Esqueleto, has a growth point, but no roots. It's really fascinating to me that they do not have any roots at all whatsoever, but they have growth points. So yes, that was it. Those were the last ones. So out of all of them, out of all the Esqueletos, they are not rooted. They are not rooted. However, they do all have growth points, which is really awesome because none of them rotted out or, just didn't take. Sometimes they don't take. I have noticed that, I don't know, it doesn't, it's hard to say, honestly, because I've propagated wet sticks in different mediums. Well, two different mediums. I've propagated them in perlite and I've propagated them in sphagnum moss. Both have taken and both have worked. However, sometimes the cuttings that I take just take longer. Like I have a I have a Philodendron melalocrysum that I took wet sticks from, and the cuttings all rooted but one, and that was in sphagnum moss. And it just now finally started to root, that like wet stick propagation, and but it's been months since the other ones. I mean, the other ones have completely grown. I have repotted them back with the mother plant. Like they are well established, but this one for some reason just took a really long time. So these wet sticks can take a really long time. My Monstera Stanleyana albo has actually been the easiest to like propagate via the wet stick propagation method. It is also the fastest growing one that I have seen in my collection. Again, I've done this with pothos, with philodendron, and then with the Monstera Esqueleto, but the Stanleyana, it just is like made for it. I don't know what it is, but it's extremely quick and extremely easy to propagate using the wet stick propagation method if you were to cut its runners and propagate them. I actually have several in my cabinet that I've recently repotted that are from wet stick propagations that have foliage on them. So it's just interesting to see how some of them take a long time and then others don't at all. Just keep them in there covered like that and wait for them to grow. And then I'll throw that dish away because it's surely looking pretty gross. So that was it. Those were my updates on my propagations for my Monstera Esqueleto. If you have an Esqueleto and it's pushing out runners, always can chop them off and try to propagate them using this method and make a fuller plant or make more plants from it. So hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have had this experience with your Monstera Esqueleto, just pushing out runners, going crazy, and make sure to subscribe so you can see more.